I'm proud of every speaker that is on the stage today and tomorrow, but I'm very proud to have Collin here. Can you come on? I let James from the stage. So Collin is our first speaker from the outside, from the other world. No, from the, he's not doing something with Silverstripe. It's okay. Instead, for 3 years, he was responsible for distribution of Drupal. And his main thing is he is a consultant for digital transformation, and he helps companies grow and become more efficient. And he's working with big clients like Daimler and Deutsche Post and European Commission. And I met him because our daughters are in the same class, and what I really like with Collin is that he has the ability to see the big picture. And if I say big, I mean really big. And so Collin will have a talk about AI. Who is using ChatGPT? And who is using Copilot? So quite some. Yeah, I'm too. But Collin will show us the big picture. What are the implications of all of that? So thank you, Collin, for being here, and the stage is yours.
Hello, hello. Works now. So thank you, Andy, for the very kind introduction. Too kind, and I don't know if the picture is that big. So I actually got into AI more than 20 years ago when I was a research assistant at the University of Berlin, where for 1 year I taught AI, but unfortunately it was the complete dead end of AI, where we tried to model the thinking in terms of logical equations, and I still hope that the students, when they remember that they are not angry with me that I taught them that bullshit. So, so I had to completely relearn everything from that time, and I followed, of course, the conversation around AI for those past 20, 25 years, but it has sped up considerably in the last 4 or 5 years. And I think we really need to join the conversation as Europeans. What does that mean for our societies? What does that mean for technology? What does that mean for our economy? And I think we're lagging behind in Europe in terms of technology and conversation. As we're here at a tech conference, I will not explain how AI works in general, because I assume that all of you have a basic understanding of how it works. But I would like to reiterate a few concepts that I find helpful when talking about AI, especially with people who are non-nerds. So I will go through some basic concepts, and then I will try to motivate you to be drivers of the conversation and to start conversations with, especially with people who are not in the computer industry or the IT industry. Okay, let's start with something very fluffy. What is this? Does anyone know?
Photograph of a cat.
A cat.
It's a photograph.
That's right. How do you know? Because when you were about 1 year old, whenever you saw something like that, your parents said, "That's a cat." Or they had to read it to you in your favorite book. They had to read it 1,000 times, maybe 10,000 times, and whenever you saw something like that, they told you, "That's a cat." So what is that? Should be easy by now. It's a dog, right? Same principle. Whenever you saw something like that when you were about 1 or 2 years old, your parents said, this is a dog. So what happened is, when we are very young, we learned the concepts of things. So we learned the concept of a cat, we learned the concept of a dog, and we create a space in our brain for these concepts. And it's not that our parents tell us, this is how a cat looks like. It has 2 ears, it has 4 feet, and so on. They just show us cats and say, this is a cat. And we figure out by ourselves how to determine a cat from a dog. So now we got a problem. It behaves like a cat, but looks like a dog. So what do? We create a third concept in our head. We've got new data, so we need to update our model. Gets tricky now, right? Okay. So, of course, computers are also very good at doing this, and they get trained in exactly the same way as little children. So, and Google, for example, they use that, as we all know, for the image search in their search engine. And so they use that technology to let very few people do the work that, if you would do it in a conventional way by showing it to showing real pictures and have humans then label those pictures, you would need basically the whole humanity to label those pictures that stream on the internet every single day. But they use machine learning to categorize those images. And of course, with machine learning, you cannot only label images, but machine learning and AI is a general purpose technology. AI has been around for 10, 15 years, and it's all around us, and we all use it every single day, and even people who don't even know it, because it's in video games, in navigation apps. The Face ID of Apple is AI, and the spam filters in our email programs. So AI has been all around us for quite a few years. And it cannot only label images, it is a general purpose technology. And in general purpose technologies turn us into superheroes. You only need very few people to label billions of images on the internet every single day, because you do that with AI. This is farming, maybe 100 years ago. You needed lots and lots and lots of people, entire families, to harvest hay or other crops. And it took many days or even weeks to harvest these crops. And then the combustion engine arrived. And now you need just one man or one woman to do the work of, in a very short time, that you needed many, many people for before 70, 80, 90 years ago. So we already know the concept of these general purpose technologies because the combustion engine is a general purpose technology. It didn't turn you only into super farmers, but you can be a super gardener, you can be a super whatever, donkey or horse, because now one man can move 40 tons at the speed of 80 kilometers per hour. Or you can be a super construction worker, super soldiers, and you can even generate electricity with that. So the combustion engine is a general purpose technology that has turned us into physical superheroes. One person can do the work of maybe 20 people in a shorter time. This is washing day, not that long ago. I think right after the Second World War, most people in Europe were still washing their clothes like this. It's estimated that women needed 30 to 40% of their spare time, or of their time in general, to do just washing the clothes, ironing, drying the clothes, and so on and so forth. And it was mostly women at the time. And then another general purpose technology arrived, electricity. And now washing is so easy that even men can do it. And of course, electricity is also a general purpose technology that has turned us into superheroes. You can move very fast, faster than any horse. You can create things, you can magically create light, you can do calculations, and of course you can cook. So electricity is also a general purpose technology, just as AI and what I think is a very interesting concept to talk about the technology to non-nerds is to talk about AI in terms of a general purpose technology and tell people that it will, as electricity and the combustion engine has affected all industries and all parts of our lives, AI will do the same, with the exception it doesn't turn us into physical superheroes, it turns us into cognitive superheroes. So we can do things, one person, one man, one woman can do things that either required thousands or millions of people before, or that were completely impossible for human beings. And it will affect every sector of our life: construction, agriculture, administration, finance, law, everything, just as electricity and the combustion engine. Then another concept that I find interesting to talk about what AI does is that when we look at classical programming, and you do that every single day, what we tell the computer is we write a program, which are the rules, then we feed it with data, which is the input, and then deterministically it produces an output when it uses those rules to modify the input. And with machine learning, it is different. We give the input and the corresponding output to the computer, and the computer itself determines the rules that they need to apply in order to get from the input to the output. And this is what I showed you with a cat. This is what your parents did when you were 1 year old, right? They showed you the cat, they told you that that was the input, they showed you the output, which is, this is the label cat, and your brain figured out the rules how to detect the cat and how to distinguish it from the dog. And then, of course, what I think will happen is that anything that can be represented as an input-output problem will be AI-ified. And that does not only apply to, let's say, data in the strict sense, but it can be physical movements where you have, let's say, I want to go from A to B, and so you have one input, you have an output, and then there is some sort of rules that produces the output from the input. So just about anything that you can formulate as an input-output problem will be subject to AI. Just a few examples for the machine learning and the image recognition. You probably all know that AI is already supporting doctors in, for example, diagnosing cancer or tuberculosis. And here it is the same as with the cats. You feed it lots of images, X-ray images, and then they get labeled with this is malignant or benign, and then the AI can detect a tumor or tuberculosis. And the interesting thing here is that it works best, at least at the moment, when the AI works together with human doctors, because the AI produces too many false positives. So in too many cases it says, look, there is a problem. Whereas the human doctors, they produce too many false negatives. So it's best to basically let first the AI judge and then the human. But again, it turns people into superheroes. I have no idea about reading X-rays, but of course I could use an AI to feed it with X-ray images, and then the AI will tell me what's wrong. Another interesting example is, this is a satellite. Hallo? Ne? Doch? Könnt ihr mich hören? Can you hear me? Yeah, again, okay. So this is a satellite image at night. Can you see what region of the world it is? No, it's not Germany? Exactly, I heard China. So this is mainland China, this is Taiwan. Here's the interesting part, this is Japan, here is the interesting part. This is South Korea, and this is North Korea. Can you see a difference? So one part is dark and one part is very light. And you can actually use that to see the level of economic development of a world region, where it's, the lighter it is, the higher it is developed in terms of GDP. And some scientists have used that to compare images from, I think that was in 2000, well, from earlier times, 2009 or something like that, until now. And what they did is they looked at a time series, and the more your economic growth is, the lighter your satellite images have to get, right? And they compared the official figures and the official reports of some countries with how much brighter their satellite images got. And what they found out is that in the Western world, the numbers matched exactly with the satellite images. And in a lot of authoritarian states, obviously the numbers were over-reported. So they could figure that out from those satellite images. And here again, that was image recognition done by an AI where you match the image with the numbers. Okay, then we know how to figure out what an image shows with AI, because the AI figures out the rules to get from the image to a label or to a number in that case. So what happens if we reverse the rules? When you go to, let's say, a 3-year-old child, or let's make it a 5 or 6-year-old, because then the output will be nicer, and you tell it, draw a cat. The child will be able to draw a cat because it has learned the concept of a cat. You can even tell it, draw a cat on the moon. Although the child probably has never seen a cat on the moon, it can easily draw a cat on the moon because it can combine the concepts of the cat and the moon. But what happens when you tell that to an AI? Draw a cat. So that's what happens. At least that's what happened in 2019. I created those cats yesterday. So it's undistinguishable from real cats. None of these cats exist, but anyone can do that. So very easily. An old and rusted Tesla in the desert. That's what you get out of this. Now imagine, in order to create that photo or that movie scene, what would you have needed to do just 5 years ago? You need to buy a Tesla, you need to wreck it, you need to put it into the desert, then you need a photographer, then you need to get the waste out of the desert again, so it would have cost hundreds of thousands of euros or dollars to produce that image. That cost me basically nothing to create that image. It can also go wrong. Salmon swimming in water. Not what you would expect. And then, of course, and here it gets interesting for society again, these are randomly generated people that I created yesterday. And you can't figure out the difference between real people and those people. And this is good and bad at the same time, because, for example, it wouldn't be any problem to use that boy, probably, to use in an advertisement, because that person doesn't exist, so you cannot violate any personality rights, right? Doesn't really match, but those people could sit here. And of course, it doesn't end here. You can create not only one picture or 10 pictures, and not only the face, but you can create hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of images of people wearing clothes, thick people, thin people, tall people, small people, women, men, different kinds of clothes. So this is a dream come true for any e-commerce shop that wants to sell clothes, right? Just 5 years ago, you would have to rent a studio, photographer, someone to do the makeup, someone to do the clothes. You need a model, you need the photographer, you need someone for the lighting, you need someone for the post-production, tens of thousands of euros. These jobs are gone, at least most of it. We will not need them anymore. Okay, so we have worked with images now. Both ways, label the images and create the images. What about other types of media? You will see the Luxembourg National Orchestra playing a piece, or a part of a piece, that was written by an AI. This is, and it is being played by real people for a change, right? So have a look. The sound is not coming through. So, sorry. This is one of the crazy things. Let's see if it works with that. No. Okay, because it's not very loud. So, music written by an AI, performed by real humans. What about language? You all know, I mean, Andy has already asked you, you all know ChatGPT. Most of you already use it. Who uses it on a daily basis? Who thinks it has changed their lives? Okay, I'm surprised that it's only so few people. The shocking fact is that I just saw a survey that more than three-fourths of all Europeans have not even tried it out yet. So a big chunk of the European population is totally unaware of what's happening out there. And I find that shocking. So what are large language models like ChatGPT? They only predict the next word in the sentence. So the cat is chasing the, and it's much more probable that it's chasing the mouse than the squirrel, than the dog or the house. And this is basically how they all work. But they do not only figure this out by using those 5 words that come before it, but they use billions of parameters around the text, and they have been trained on billions of parameters around the text. And the interesting thing is that obviously those models have learned from reading, some people say 1/3 of the internet, text that has been produced by people. They have not only learned to predict the next word in the sentence, but they have formed concepts about how the world works. So there have been tests where they asked ChatGPT to figure out how you could stack certain objects. Let's say a bottle, a beer can, a screw, and I don't know, 2 books. Which it probably hasn't seen in the training material, but nevertheless, in most cases, it produces the right answer on how you can stack those objects so that they would actually form a tower. So in some sense, it must have produced a concept of how the world works. And we have already talked about this before in the introduction from Andy. The hottest new programming language is English. To me, it has completely changed my life. I hadn't been programming for 15 years in a serious way until last year. And now I do it again on an almost daily basis. Because all the concepts that I've learned during my computer science studies, they are still valid, but I was completely outdated in terms of how to use those languages, which frameworks, and so on and so forth. And now it's totally easy for me to put that all together again. It's completely changed my life. And not only my life. When you look at it, GPT-4 passes basically every exam that US students have to go through, either at the beginning or at the end of their studies. In law, in medicine, in biology, in whatever, ChatGPT performs at the 90s, at the 90% percentile or 80, which means that it performs better than 80 or 90% of the human participants. And of course, that's why ChatGPT is the app that has reached 100 million users in the shortest time, much faster than TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Okay, the internet is a bit more mature now, but to me it's not surprising. And why is it catching on so quickly? Because you don't have to learn it. You don't need training. You just need to be able to write and read. In most cases, just your mother tongue. It perfectly works in German. It probably works in French. I don't know about, let's say, smaller languages like Estonian or so, but at least in German, it perfectly works. And when you think about traditional computer systems, it takes days, weeks, years of training to use these systems. And when you look at it, most people, although they use it on a daily basis, still can't use Microsoft Word properly. And this is different with ChatGPT. You need to experiment a bit, and then you can just use it. And this is why it fits neatly into most existing business processes. This is something that I rarely read about. But when you think about it, when you introduce a new computer system in a company, in a business process, in most cases you have to completely remodel the business process to adapt to the system, in terms of SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, whatever. Because ChatGPT, and with the new modules, it can read basically all the material and produce all the material that human operators read and produce. Text, images, videos, whatever. So you can basically, in all these cases, you can just swap out the human and replace him or her with AI. It's no problem at all. You don't need to even change, you even don't need to change the interface. PDF is fine as input. PDF is fine as output. Audio is fine as input. No problem at all. So what will happen is this. This is a profound change to what we had just 2 or 3 years ago. More with less. Workers needed at the Standard & Poor 500 companies to generate 1 million in revenue. The chart ends in 2021, so before ChatGPT was available. So you need about 2 workers, whereas just 30 years ago you needed 8. Okay, there's a bit of inflation. I checked it. It would probably go here if you corrected it for inflation, but it's still a significant drop. And that was before ChatGPT. So now you can imagine what will happen when we introduce AI and those large language models with audio interfaces, text interface, video, and graphics. This is the share of labor force employed in agriculture in Poland, Italy, France, Netherlands, United Kingdom, so you could say Europe, from the year 1400 to 2019. Can you spot where the steam engine, the general purpose technology, was invented? That was here, right? Here we had the combustion engine a little later. That was the next sharp drop. And now we have 1 or 2% of people working in agriculture in Europe, whereas in the Middle Ages, basically everyone needed to work in agriculture to produce enough food to feed the population. And when you look at the European Union, the share of people employed in the tertiary sector, which is services, this is 70%. Services is, on the one hand, nurses, chefs, what other services are there? Nurses, I have kindergarteners, teachers, and so on. But about half of these 70% are exactly the jobs that ChatGPT can do. Insurance, banking, law, a lot of medicine. So you can imagine what will happen to those 70%. Another problem we need to talk about is, and this is image recognition again, the authoritarian regime in China. They use image recognition to monitor their population. And they apply a so-called social scoring to people who behave well or badly. So you gain in score or you lose score, and depending on your score, you have advantages or disadvantages in society. So for example, your kids can go to the better university or the worse university or no university at all, things like that. We certainly don't want that in Europe. At least that's what I think. And here again, because that technology has turned a few people, in that case the security system of China, into superheroes, they can implement a system like this. General purpose technologies have helped us wreck the planet. And here I'm not talking about AI, I'm talking about the combustion engine and electricity, because this is the state of the world today. So we have been very effective in, or we're on a very good way to making the planet uninhabitable with the combustion engine and electricity and a few other technologies. With AI, that will become much easier because we will become even more efficient. But here again, the problem is not the technology. The problem is the objectives that we have. And when you think about it, there is probably no company, no politician, nobody in the world who wants to destroy planet Earth. That happens because we optimize for two goals. Companies optimize for profit, and nation states optimize for GDP growth. And there is no coordination, no overall coordination between nation states and companies. And because everyone optimizes for themselves, these two figures, this is what we get. So it's not the technology itself, it's the lack of coordination and it's optimizing for the wrong goals. So if we want to avoid that, we need to find new goals and coordinate better in the world. So I have told you one side of the story. And if we continue down that path, then we will have the apocalypse very soon, and AI will only help us down that path. And this is the prevailing story that people tell themselves about AI, and especially in Europe, where we always think about, how can we prevent that technology from happening? But there's another story, and that I find at least as exciting and interesting as the other story, because maybe AI is our last chance to prevent the apocalypse, because it makes us so powerful and it gives us so much more intelligence that maybe we can invent the means to go down another path than the path that we are currently on. And I think we are very close to realizing, to implementing the Star Trek society, and that's why I had that title of the talk. When you think about it, you only have to work when you want to work. You have healthcare, you have energy, you have all these things. We are very close to implementing a utopia that people have held for thousands of years. And when you look at that quote from Arthur C. Clarke, who's one of the most famous science fiction authors, he says, "The goal of the future is full unemployment so we can play." So I'm all in for that. If an AI can do my job, yes, fine. So the problem that we need to solve is not that the AI will do my job. The problem we need to solve is how will I get money and how can I make a living, right? So until yesterday, we all said, oh, it's Monday, I have to go to the office again. And today we say, the AI is taking my job, I can't go to the office. Right? So this is crazy. We just need to think differently. I'm all in for this. I want to work only the work that I want to work, and not the things that I have to do. I'm very happy to let the AI do the work that is boring me or that I find unproductive or whatever. So let me go through a few examples of where I think we are very close to realizing aspects of the Star Trek society. And this is the utopia we need to implement for our kids. And AI will help us with that. Free education, access to all knowledge, we have already gotten that. We have Coursera, we've got Udemy, we've got Khan Academy, we've got YouTube full of education videos, and so on and so forth. We don't need to talk about that. Communicator, real-time translation, video conferencing. It's already there, right? Don't need to talk about that. Antimatter reactors? Maybe not. But we have fusion power. At a safe distance of 150 million kilometers, we have a very big fusion reactor that sends us unlimited amounts of energy that we can use, and we do it. This ends in 2019. The price for solar photovoltaic has even dropped even more. Solar panels are the cheapest option for new energy, for new power generation in the world, and it has dropped even more. We just need to implement it, and that's what's happening. This is 2023. This is the estimated amount of solar capacity in the world. The large red thing is China. They implement more than half of the rest, more than what the other half of the world implements. I don't know why the International Energy Agency turns this exponential growth into a linear growth from here on. I see no reason why that should happen. So we are on a very good path to clean energy, unlimited energy, just as they have it in Star Trek. We just need to do it. We can use AI for decentralized grids. At the same time, we are here with all the electric vehicles to install lots of battery capacity, because every electric car has a battery. We just need to find ways how to use that battery capacity so that the car can load the batteries during the day and then release energy that they don't need during the night. It can all be done with computers and AI, no problem. Google uses AI to optimize the power consumption of their data centers. They've optimized it by 15%. Sounds not like a lot, but when you consider that data centers consume 2% of the entire energy consumption of the world, this is significant, all done with AI. And now they're using AI to design processes that run AI more efficiently. So we're getting into another exponential loop here. What about the doctor? AI, we already talked about the cancer detection, tuberculosis, but there's more. AlphaFold, another Google initiative. That is an AI that can predict the three-dimensional structure of a protein from the amino acid sequence. This is I'm not an expert in this, but proteins are what make life happen. These are basically the components of the cells of all living beings that take an input and produce an output. So we need to know what they do in order to produce new medicine, new food, new material, and so on and so forth. In the past 60 years, scientists have identified 180,000 protein structures with big experiments. The AI needed a few months to predict 200 million structures. So basically, science is over in that field. And they have open sourced it, and the scientific community is ecstatic about it. So this will help us find new drugs, produce food in a better way, and so on and so forth. Now they have found a new antibiotic. Maybe you know that. It has been decades since the last efficient antibiotic has been developed. AI helps with that. And it will also help cancer treatment. What about the replicator? Okay, we probably don't have that. But, for example, we have drones that help in farming. This is a drone that, again, with image detection, it runs through the field, it detects the wheat, then it extends a small arm and puts the wheat back into the ground, where it then works as fertilizer for the real crops that you want to grow. Which means you don't need those herbicides, you need a lot less poison, and it's much healthier for the environment and for the people. Again, AI. Vertical and underground farming, all driven by AI, very efficient, very few water that they need, the optimal amount of fertilizer, and this will get on top of what, for example, the Netherlands already do. It's a tiny country, but they are the second largest food exporter in the world. Can you imagine? Because they have very efficient food production systems in their greenhouse systems. And they have already done that without AI, so you can imagine what AI will manage us to do. And then this is easy, the holodeck, we will have it in 2 or 3 years, because all the components are already there. We have 3D computer games. We have script writing by large language models. We can produce voice, we can produce audio, we can produce video through AI. So it will not take long until we have a personalized video stream that will be generated in the moment that you consume it. And this is basically what the holodeck does. And you will also probably be able to interact with other people there. And all the ingredients are already there. We just need a little more processing power, which is just a matter of 2 or 3 or 4 years. And when you look at things like the Apple Vision Pro or the Oculus headset, the technology is there. So I think we should really work for that future of the world. I want to have that implemented for my daughter. But of course, we can't neglect the problems that we have with AI, and I want to reiterate them. Where we need to focus the discussion that is currently leading to AI will take over the world and will eradicate humanity. This will not happen, right? Because AI, at least in Germany, doesn't even have the endpoints to connect to, because the country is so analog that no matter what AI you have, it will not be able to take over the country, right? So, and I think this is true for most of Europe. It will simply not happen. Yeah, still using facts, exactly, right? So, okay, so this is what I talked about. We have to make sure, of course, that we preserve the personality rights and the privacy of people. Another big problem that we have, especially in Europe, is that the big companies, the big US platforms, they currently are the leaders in AI technology, and they own currently basically all the advanced computer chips that you need in order to train the advanced AI models. But I think if we get our act together, then in 2 or 3 years, we will be at the same level as them. But we need to start. And then, of course, and please, this is what we need to talk about, is that AI will help us do this destruction of the planet in the current economic system even more efficiently and effectively than before. So we need to change the overall system and not the technology. So the discussion is about, do we want this? Do we want that? And what I want you to do, or what us to do, is we need to take it into our own hands in Europe. We need to stop standing at the sideline and just looking at what the Americans and the Chinese do. We need to get our act together. We need to decentralize and open source. Interestingly, Facebook is a big proponent of that. They have released their Llama model to the public. And yeah, we need to get it out of the hands of the big centralized platforms. We need to make sure, again, especially in Europe, that our governments don't ruin it again. Well intended, but badly implemented, like for example for the GDPR, because they are either ignorant or they take uninformed decisions, and maybe we can even leapfrog from the analog Germany to a full-on AI Germany. So, let's invent the new status quo, and please talk about this. Let's get the conversation started, let's get the action started, and I think we as a tech community need to play a much bigger role than what we did in the past, and not only work on the technology, but also talk about what it means for society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Collin. I really like talks which start with cats and end with changing the world. That's really great. And I also gave Collin the task to raise more questions than to answer questions. And Collin will be with us at the lunch and also later. And speaking about lunch, who knows it? We are doing the most hamburgish thing that you can do. We have a ship. We have a ship outside, just on our own jetty. So you can leave everything here. My wife will stay here, and everything will be safe. And we are just leaving to the ship and making a harbor trip with lunch on the ship.